for class.
Thank you, Kelly. Thanks everyone for joining us today for our Prismacolor Black Cat drawing class. I'm a senior graphic designer at Newell Brands at our design center here in Michigan. And our moderator today is Megan. She'll be helping us with any questions you have. Newell is known for marketing such cool brands as Prismacolor, of course, and Sharpie and Papermate, Graco, all kinds of brands like ball jars and many, many others. I'm a freelance artist in addition to being a graphic designer. I've done over 100 pet portraits. So I have a real passion for drawing cats and dogs for people. It just brings them a lot of joy, and Prismacolor is just the ultimate medium for drawing your pet. After our class today, if you'd like to share your beautiful artwork that you create of this black cat, you can tag Michaels. You can do hashtag make it with Michaels to share your artwork, or you can share us also tag Prismacolor at Prismacolor. And I think at Prismacolor Pencils also works as well. You can see more of my artwork on Facebook if you search Dan Bledsaw Dog Portraits. And I also have an Instagram page with my pet portraits. You just search Bledsaw3, my last name, number 3. Okay, well, happy Halloween weekend coming up here. And we've got a little theme in the background here with a pumpkin and a black cat, because we're going to be drawing a black cat. I've got a few fun facts about Halloween. The holiday dates back more than 2,000 years. Wow. Trick-or-treating has existed since medieval times. Wow, I can't imagine what that was like. Now Halloween is the second largest commercial holiday in the country. So wow, it's a big holiday, and we're gonna help celebrate it. Illinois, where I'm from, produces 5 times more pumpkins than any other state. How about that? Go Illinois. And then candy corn, which I'm sure you all love, was originally called chicken feet. So let's go over to our drawing table, and I'm going to introduce you to some of our Prismacolor supplies. The first color that I'm going to introduce you to is Prismacolor White. We're going to be using white for a lot of the highlights at the end and the finishing details. White is also a good pencil to blend with a little bit. Sometimes if you can lighten any color with a white, and you can also blend with it a little bit. The next color, because we have a black cat, is Prismacolor Black, of course. And this gives you a really rich, luxurious black for your black cat. And then because the eyes of the cat have a little light green in them, we're going to use Chartreuse green, kind of a light green Prismacolor. And then as far as the grays, and that's where you get your detail in a black cat, is the grays. We're going to use 20% warm gray, and that's great for the initial gray fur highlights that we put down. And then if you look at the ears of the black cat, it's got a little bit of a brownish color, and French gray is kind of a brownish color. And it's 50% French gray that we're going to be using. So hopefully you have those supplies. And then also 20% cool gray is a very, very light gray that we can use toward the end to do the individual pieces of the individual hairs of fur, to catch those. And as we're going to start with the drawing of the cat. I've done a light drawing just because the drawing can take quite a bit of time, and in the interest of time, we want to color the cat. We'll just start. I'll just go over how I do the drawing, and we're going to use Prismacolor Magic Rub Eraser if I need to do any erasing of the drawing. So hopefully you downloaded the picture of the cat. So I have my tablet here, and it's a black cat. So hopefully you have that picture for reference. And then also I'm going to be using X-Acto Powerhouse Sharpener, which is a great sharpener for sharpening your Prismacolor. Sorry about that. I dropped my tablet. So, okay, so now let's go ahead and get started with, we're going to start with the overall midtones of the, well, actually, first we're going to start with the drawing. So I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm just going to fill in some of this outline of the cat. So we're just drawing the very outside outline of our black cat. So I'm just going to go in with my black and just follow that line. I'm looking at the photo. I'm seeing where the legs are. And I'm just drawing the initial outline of our cat. And of course, the cat is sitting down. So you have that seated pose. And then we're going to go up toward the ears. Ears are kind of a triangular shape, and they kind of round at the top. And then we're going to do the top of the head, and then the other ear. So now we have the initial outline of the cat, and now we're going to do the eyes. The eyes are pretty much in the center of the head, and one eye width is the distance between the two eyes. So I'm just going to go in and draw those round, big round eyes of the cat. They're so beautiful. Cats are nocturnal, so the eyes glow when light is shined in them. So cats have beautiful eyes, and this beautiful cat, black cat, has some green in its eye. So we're just going, and the center of the pupil of the eye is kind of like a football shape. So we're just drawing that football shape of our black cat's eyes. And there's also a little highlight that you see coming off in the photo there. So I'm just trying to start to indicate that highlight. So like I said, you can take your eraser, you can erase a little bit with the Prismacolor and if you don't initially put the color down too hard, but just a little bit of a highlight that I'm just going to indicate right now. And then I'm going to go in and draw the nose of the cat. It's just a simple little kind of a triangular shape. And it's got a line in between. And so we're just going to indicate that. And then the little mouth of the cat, they just have a little mouth opening that you can see when their mouth is closed. So we're just going to indicate that. And then in this picture, you can just barely see the jawline of the cat. So we're just going to start to indicate that jawline as it goes up the side of the head. And then we're going to go down, we're going to start to indicate these legs of the cat. So let's just go in there. And then there's a little bit of gray that shows around the legs. So we're just going to start to indicate that shape. A lot of times drawing is finding shapes like a puzzle and indicating where there's a light area or where there's a color transition. And in this case, it's just the where the gray areas are. So we want to indicate the gray areas on the side of the cat. And then there's a lot of it's where the light is hitting the cat's fur. So we're just drawing those gray areas. And we're going to go in with the warm gray and fill in those areas when we do the initial midtones of the cat. So that's a gray area. And then as far as the ears, we're just going to start to indicate what you see in the ears. You see a little bit of black going around the edges of the ear. So we'll start to indicate that. And then of course you got some of the fur, the hair sticking up where the ear starts. And then there's the recessed area, the ear canal of the cat. So we're just going to start to indicate that. And we'll do the same thing on the other ear. We'll just go around that black area that kind of outlines the ear. And we'll start to do some more of those hairs you can see in the picture. And some right there. but we're going to wait and we're going to add the midtones before we go too far with that. So then there's also some gray areas I just want to indicate initially just with the black to show where the transition is. There's a nice gray area underneath the cat's eye. So I'm indicating that. And then there's some gray at the top of the head of the cat. So I'm just going to indicate a little bit of that gray area. So I'm going around the cat and I'm just defining where there's going to be some areas where the color changes and where the light's hitting it. And down here, I'm just indicating where there's probably going to be some white hairs. It's kind of cool because on the cat, this black cat, there's white that really pops right there. So we want to think about that ahead of time as we're drawing our black cat. So now that we've got the overall cat drawn, and I know some of you already have the drawing, so you're ready to start filling in the color. Let's go in with the black and let's start to fill in the big areas. And remember, toward the end, that's when we're going to add all of our finishing details. But initially, we just want to go in and start filling in the shapes that we've drawn. So we're going to go in and just start filling in that black. And remember, we've got the Colorless Blender. So that is a great way of making the black really adhere to the paper, really grind it into the paper. So you don't have to press too hard to get that black look initially. So we are going to go over it with the Colorless Blender. So I'm just filling in the black areas. You know, there's a lot of black areas with this black cat. So there's several areas to fill in. And then we're going to go in with the grays, the warm grays after we add the blacks. So I'm starting to draw some of the directional fur that I see on the cat's paw here. And there's some black here, details. And then this,
Dan,
yes, go
I just
ahead.
got a question from the group
Sure.
asking if the direction of the strokes that you're doing matter. I'm guessing in those areas where you're really coloring in the black, does it matter what way?
Oh, absolutely, because if you look closely at your photo, you see that the fur, you can actually see the individual, you know, strands of fur, and they're all going in a certain direction. Like some of them are going this way, some of them are going that way. And so you want to kind of do that with your pencil. And you'll do that more often later on when we do the highlights, but it helps initially to like start to think about that when you're doing the black, because yeah, the direction of the pencil lines are important. It kind of needs to match what you see in the fur. And if the area is super black, you don't need to worry about that as much because you're not going to see the individual pieces of fur as much when it's just black. So right now we're just going into some of those black areas and filling in all the black. And there's little areas where you see some of the black, like in this edge of the gray.
Hey Dan, we got another question on whether they're supposed to be blending it right now.
I'm sorry, what about blending?
They're supposed to be blending the black?
No, not yet. Right now we're just kind of filling the area with black. We're going to go back with the Colorless Blender, and that's how we're going to blend the black to the gray areas. So good question, but we're not really blending it as much right now as just kind of filling in the areas. So we're just adding some black around the edges. We're just trying right now to get a lot of the areas filled in with black, because this is a very black cat. And so we just want to fill in those areas that have solid black. And then also the areas that are mainly the gray. And we're going to use our warm gray for that. So we're going in. There's a lot of very black areas. You can see where those legs are separated side there. And there's a little bit of gray on the edge. We'll leave that open for the gray. And we're just filling in more black. Initially, you're just trying to get coverage, trying to get that black cat started. And by the way, there's 22 different breeds of black cats. Who knew? And the ancient Egyptians worshipped the black cat. There was a black cat goddess. Things you learn. I'm gonna go ahead and sharpen my pencil, and let's go in and start doing the black on the head.
Dan, I can't believe there are that many breeds of black cats. I never would have guessed that.
I didn't either. I guess there's one black cat breed that's really the most dominant in the US. So I think some of the other breeds aren't as prevalent. A lot of the black cats you see in the neighborhood and stuff are pretty similar. But black cats have a definite history with Halloween. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. But we like the good parts, because we love our cats. I've got a big orange tabby at home, and they're just so fun to relax with. Cats have a mind of their own, but they'll come around when they want to. They want a little love. And it's that purring sound that draws you. So I'm just trying to color the face of the cat, see all that black around the eyes, and how it comes up around the ears. Like I said, there's like an outline of black around the ears. And now I need to sharpen again. Every once in a while, your X-Acto Powerhouse sharpener is a great way to do it. But if you don't have an electric sharpener, you know, the metal sharpeners work too, just take a little longer. So we're just starting to indicate some of that black fur around the ear. There's black on the edges right there. There's a little bit of black down here. And then I have to leave some of these areas for the gray, because a lot of the area around the mouth is gray. And then there's some black each side of the nose. So we're just trying to fill in the mid-tone of black. So I'm starting to leave those areas where we're going to go in with gray. And after we do the gray, we're going to do the cat's eyes. That's a lot of fun because cats have beautiful eyes.
Dan, what kind of paper are you using?
We're using a Bristol paper that you can get at Michael's. It's great for colored pencil, but if all you have is the printer paper you use to print out the sketch with, that's fine too. It's great for practicing. So any paper that has a little bit of tooth to it works, but the Bristol paper is a great paper to do some of your more finished pieces with. So we're getting those areas around the ear detail going. And then I'm going to go in and just start to work on the pupils of the eyes. Those football shapes, pupils, they're so cool looking. They're definitely different than human eyes. And once again, we're going to leave that highlight free of the black, is that we want the white to show through. We're probably going to go in and add white at the end, but it's nice to leave that little space for it. So now that we have quite a bit of black, I'm going to transition to the warm gray. So we're going to use the 20% warm gray. So I'm going to go in and start to fill in those areas I left blank for the gray. And what's that?
I was gonna say, do you have any tips for when they're coloring to help it look more uniform and less like pencil sketching? I think you do a really good job of really filling in the black and making it look full. We had a question on how you make it look more crayon, kind of like yours.
Well, the blender is what's going to make it look very blended when we're toward the end. But initially, you just want to press pretty hard and get a good coverage. But sometimes it's good to show some of the lines too, because you can show the direction of the fur. So the broad areas, you just want to kind of push hard and fill in with the black. But then the some of the areas where you're trying to show detail, we're actually going to come back with the black and the gray and add the individual pieces of fur too. But initially, you're just trying to fill in the broad areas of color, and then we'll go in later on and add more line details toward the end. So now we're going to go in to the paw and just fill in that warm gray that we left open. So let's fill that in. Get that nice and full. We're going to go over that with black too to add individual hairs of the fur. And then right now, like I said, we're just trying to fill in our midtones. So this warm gray is a gray that's kind of nice because it gives that cat a little bit of life. It's almost got a little bit of reddish color to it. The cool gray is good for finishing details, but the warm gray is kind of good for these broad areas of gray that you see where the light hits the fur of the cat. And that's really where you get a lot of your details with a black cat, is where the light hits the fur. So we're just going over the side of the head there, and then I'm going to sharpen my pencil, and we're just going to go in and fill in those areas that we left blank. Gray areas where the light is hitting the fur. And initially, it's not going to look real great, but what happens later on is when you start blending it is when the magic starts to happen. So we're going to zoom in on the nose. As you see, our black cat has a lot of gray in the nose, but then there's also the black nostrils, and there's a little black line right there down the middle of the nose. And then, of course, black where the mouth opening is. So we're going to try and capture some of that right now with the gray. So we're just going in initially, and we're just filling in that nose. And later on, we're going to go back and add more details. But right now, it's all about just getting in those white areas with gray. And in the gray areas, we're going to add detail with the black. In the black areas, we're going to add detail with white and gray. So I'm getting that area filled in. And you will get some of the the Prismacolor color on your white areas. You can go over with an eraser later on and clean some of that up. But initially, we're just trying to get this cat colored. And you can blow some of it too to clean it off your paper. So the top of the head, that gray area, and then the ears, like I mentioned, this French gray is kind of a nice gray for the ears. As you can see in the photo, the cat's ears are kind of almost a little bit of a brownish gray. So that's why we picked the French gray. So we're filling in both of those ears with the French gray. Now we're starting to get a lot of our coverage. And it's just an initial pass just to get the cat filled in. And then we're going to go in with the green on the eyes. So if you look at our black cat, our black cat's got more of a pronounced green right around the pupil, and then it gets lighter green toward the outer rings of the eye. So we're going to try and capture that a little bit. And the way to do that is to take our chartreuse green and just kind of lightly fill in the pupil area with that green on both eyes. And then we'll go in with some white and try to make it a little lighter on the edges. And the more time you have, obviously, the more detail you can put. We're just trying to give you an initial idea of how the color works with a cat. Oh, my pencil broke, so we're just sharpening it. And so right around the edges, we're just going to add a little bit of white. We'll probably go in later on and add more detail too. And then we've got our highlight. I might try to just erase a little bit. You want to keep
Hey,
that,
Dan,
that
I
white.
got a question on whether you could use Gamasol instead of blending, instead of the Colorless Blender. Do you know?
I've not used Gamasol because the Colorless Blender works so well, but I mean, I would look online for that because I'm not sure about that. I've never heard of that.
Okay.
But good question. But the Colorless Blender works great. And speaking of the Colorless Blender, that's where we're going next. So we're going to go ahead and start to blend that black and the grays. And that's going to fill it in, so we'll get that rich black. So we're going to go in, let's go into all the black areas right now and just blend those.
And when you're done with the blending, will you show a close-up of the eye?
Sure, yeah.
Maybe in your finished drawing or something.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll probably erase some of the color in the background when I'm done, just to clean it up a little bit. But initially, you're just trying to get the colors blended. The great thing about this Colorless Blender is you don't have to press real hard with your black, because you can let the Colorless Blender do the work for you. Because what it does is it just kind of presses that black into the paper. And so then you get the nice solid black where you don't get as, all those little specks of white showing through. And as you blend, you're starting to think about how the fur is going to show up in the gray areas. So you're starting to take that blender, and like we were saying earlier, you're trying to directionally draw with the blender so that some of the black fur is starting to get placed in there. And I'll go into the gray too. And sometimes you'll get black on the end of your blender, and you might want to just, have a piece of scrap paper and just kind of rub it off if you're trying to do a different color. If you don't want to get that color in that area. But right now we're just trying to go in and blend all these different areas of black and gray. Get that here blended. I'm going to sharpen it again. And then we're going to blend around the face. Blend that pupil again.
Dan,
Around. Yes.
I got a question on how to blend colors with the Colorless Blender. Do you have any tips or just kind of high level how to get started using a Colorless Blender if you haven't before?
Yeah, well, just like this black, if you just go in with the blender and just, almost like you're coloring with the black again, but imagine you're coloring with the black again, only you're not coloring with the blender. What you're doing is you're pressing that into the paper. So it's a very similar kind of feel to what you were doing initially when you were filling in the black areas, only you're going in with that blender and you're just almost redrawing it. Because what it's doing is it's just pressing that pigment into the paper. And see how it's starting to blend the gray and the black? That is the look you're looking for, because you're looking for that soft fur look. And blending those colors starts to give you that soft fur look of the cat. So we're going into the nose area, and you got those nostrils, little black holes. And you've got that line that goes down the middle, and then you've got the mouth. So you got to think about that when you're blending. And you're just kind of, like I said, you're just kind of going over and doing what you did before, but this time you're blending the colors. And it doesn't look perfect initially, but what happens is it's almost like when you're sculpting with clay, you're doing a sculpture, you're kind of sculpting the color of your cat. You can almost imagine the different shapes of the cat's body, and you're just kind of following those shapes and just filling in and starting to blend where you see the transitions between gray and black. So we're almost done with the black. Done a lot of the face. We're going to start blending around the edges, because there's black where the gray meets on the edges. And at the end, we can start to indicate those little pieces of fur that come off on the edges.
Hey, Dan, just a time check. We're about halfway done.
Okay, thanks. Well, I better hurry up with my blending here. So, but the blending, it does take a while, and it's actually a very crucial step in your drawing of your black cat, because this is how you get that look of the soft fur. It's all about blending those colors, the grays and the blacks together. We're coming around the bottom of the cat. And when you have plenty of time, you can spend a lot of your time just practicing with the blender, blending different colors together, practice different strokes to get the look you're looking for. Like, see, we're trying to mimic that fur that kind of lays sideways right here on the cat. So we're starting to indicate that with the blender. And then this is probably the most time-consuming part of doing the picture of the cat, is just getting the initial color and getting it initially blended. So now I've almost got most of the blending done. Getting close. So I'm going to go into that paw area. I'm going to sharpen my blender, get some of that black off of it. And just, when you get into the gray areas, you're just kind of smoothing those over toward the black. You see where those lines are that you use with the black? You're just kind of blending those to get that soft fur look. All that, and we've got a couple of Prismacolor trivia questions for you. So one question is, what year was the Colorless Blender first introduced? See if you folks that know your Prismacolor can guess what year the Colorless Blender pencil, my favorite pencil, was introduced. And then some of you folks that are older like me, what was the first year that Prismacolor pencils were launched? Although it's actually even older than me. And then a third question was, what year were Prismacolor illustration markers introduced? So not only do we have the pencils, and we have watercolor pencils too, but we also have markers. So put those in the chat. Megan, see if you see any answers, and then we'll see if they got it right.
I got 2004 for the first question.
Okay. Actually, the answer for the Colorless Blender, it came out in 97.
Wow.
20-some years ago.
Also got 1951.
Oh, for when the Prismacolors were introduced?
I don't know. We asked him 3
Okay.
date questions.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
1938. You could tell me any. Oh, 1938
no,
for when they're introduced.
That's it. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, really?
Good, they got it right.
Good
And
job,
then,
Michelle.
any guesses on the most recent thing, which was the illustration markers?
1997 again.
Nope.
Let's
A little,
see.
little later than that.
2010.
Getting close, getting warm. 2007.
All right, yeah, we got a couple close ones right at that. 2000, 2011. Good job, guys. Very close.
Very good. Okay, so now we've got the overall cat blended. So now we're going to go in and start adding more of the details. So in this area here with the gray, if you look at the photo of the cat, you start to see a lot of the lines in the gray. So we're going to use our black pencil to indicate those lines. So we're going to go in and start to, and we can blend the lines too once we put those down if they're too pronounced. But we want to go in and just start to indicate the little hairs of fur. And it's so beautiful how the light hits it, and then you can see each individual line. And you can also see the direction of the lines as they relate to the cat's body. So we're going to start indicating those in that gray area. And then I noticed that there's some gray that I didn't really indicate. So there's this area right here. And the nice thing about the whites and the lighter grays is you can go over the black with those colors. So I could start to indicate that line now. So if I missed something when I did the initial pass of color fills, I can go back later on and add it. So that line of the neck with the highlights, I can start to add that. And I can start to do the individual strands of fur on around the cheeks. So I'll go in with the black. And we're just trying to add more details.
Dan, were you just using the cool gray?
Yes, I was using the 20% cool gray. So after you do the French gray, it's good to go in with the lighter grays, because then you want to add more detail. So you can also go in with your black again and define that nose area a little better. And you can go in with your cool gray. See how you can see some of that fur in the middle of the face of the cat? So you can start to add that. And then there's, at the top of the head, you can see there's a patch where the light hits it. So you're trying to find the light with your lighter grays. And then around the eyes, you can see there's little individual hairs that just kind of define the different areas. There's a little light area right around the eye. There's a light area right here. And you can go in with white too. If the cool gray is not light enough, you can start to go in with your white. And lighten it up. And you see how you start to see some of the little individual strands of fur here that just kind of pop out on that white area. And then you can actually go over the warm gray in the ears with the white, because that's how you're going to add more details. See, there's there's like a structure to that ear that you're almost like you're sculpting that structure with the white. Same way on the other ear, you can go back with the white and you can start to sculpt that structure of the ear. You can make those different pieces of the ear have more of a defined shape with the white.
Hey Dan, is the gray they used right around the eyes, kind of right underneath the eyes, is that warm gray?
No,
Which
I
gray did you
think
use?
that was the cool gray,
Okay, it was.
the
Thank
20%
you.
cool gray. And then inside the ear, there's see how it gets really dark right in the ear canal? You can start to define that area. And then you can go in with the black and do the individual hairs in the ear. And then there's a black area right here that kind of comes into the gray. And so you're just trying to define that ear. And it's basically, you're using the black to do each strand of the black fur. And you're using the white to bring the structure out. And we'll go back, since we blended it, we want to go back and add, we want to define the edge of the pupil a little better, and maybe around the eyes. Because once you get that color in there, it's all about going in and further defining the details.
Hey Dan, we just got a couple questions.
Huh?
First, can you slide the photo down so that it's in the frame?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, you mean the tablet?
Yeah, do you think it will fit? If it won't, then maybe just hold it up and
Oh, here we
you
go.
guys can get a sneak peek of it. I'll put it in the chat too, so you guys can download it if you want.
Yeah, is that good?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
Well,
Second, we got a question for whether you can show kind of a stroke example of how you're drawing strokes on a white scrap sheet. Do you have a white scrap sheet? Maybe even on your sticky note or something?
oh yeah, sure. They want to know how I'm doing the strokes.
Yeah.
Well, you're just going in and you're just using parallel lines just to indicate the fur, and it's going to go in the direction that you see them, you know, around the cat's face and body. So parallel lines, and then sometimes crosshatch lines can indicate a really wide area. So it's basically a combination of parallel lines and cross-hatching lines is what you're trying to do. Okay, so there's this white area where the light is really hitting the fur around the eye. And so we're just trying to go in and define that. You're trying to show the little individual highlights of fur. And then we'll go in and let's start to, we're going to start to show some of the whiskers. With the white, we can at least start to indicate the whiskers. And if the white isn't white enough, you could even take a little bit of tempera paint and because it is hard to do white on top of black, but you can at least start to indicate it with your white Prismacolor, because those whiskers really come out of there. And then we're going to go in and further define this area around the nose.
Hey, Jim, we got a question of if you would use kind of the same general method if you were drawing a lighter cat, it's like a light gray and orange one. Would you do the dominant color and then add the other colors on top? Same way?
Yeah, I would start with the midtones, just like we do with the black cat. With an orange cat, you're going to have a lot of brownish orange color. So I would start with the midtones, and then I would I would work in the highlights and the individual, pieces of fur, the individual hairs. That's kind of the way I work. But it's initially just filling in the mid-tone colors and then going in and adding, the fine details toward the end. That's kind of the way you do it. And then like in this gray area, you see how in the photo, you can see some of that directional fur. So we're just going in, indicating some of that. And then in the paw area, you see how you can see there's like little lines of black and white. So we'll go into the paw area and we'll just try to define the edge of that with the black. And then we'll start to do those little pieces of black fur that kind of really give it all the detail. And you can go in with white too, because I see some white in there. And see how you can make the white stand out in the black. That's the nice thing about white, is you can start to put some of that white in the black area. White is a very strong color. It can go over a lot of other colors to lighten them. So you're starting to just do each individual piece of white. Bring out more details. And like I said, you can use the white to blend into the gray and the black. So those strokes that I put in the gray area with the black, you can actually blend it in with white a little. Because white is really good for blending too, just like the blender. You're just trying to define that light, where the light hits the cat. And like around the mouth area, you start to see some details of where the fur is. You're going to have like little spots of black. Sometimes it's hard to see on a black cat, but they're there. I'll define that nose area a little bit more with my white. The nice thing about the white is you can go over the black and start to add in details that you missed. So I can start to define that whole area by the mouth. How are we doing on time, Megan?
Got about 10 minutes left.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we need to start thinking about, some of the, I'm still working on the picture. Obviously, I don't have tons of time, but one of the nice things to do toward the end is to add that little bit of fur around the edges of the cat. That's what you see in the photo. That's what makes it look more soft and furry. There's little bits of fur showing around the edges. And obviously you could spend as much time as you want with all these little details. It can take a few hours if you really want to capture the details. But the great thing about artwork is some people like to do more of an impressionist picture. where you just get the overall impression of the cat. And then some people like to do the photorealistic picture of the cat where they get every little granular detail. But the nice thing about Prismacolor is you can get pretty detailed. It can look like an oil painting. And the cool thing about a Prismacolor is it builds up layers and it starts to look like an oil painting because it starts to look a little shiny when the light hits it. And you'll be like, wow, that looks like a painting. So we're just going in, and when you're finishing off a picture, you're just going in and adding all those little finishing details around the edges. And I noticed I didn't make the highlights real strong. So you can actually go in and add those highlights with the white toward the end. And if it's kind of muddy in the green area of the pupil, you can go over that. And see all those little details on the face, and then you see little details of individual. There's a little bit of a nose detail that you can see there. You're kind of just sculpting with your whites and your blacks to get all those finishing details. And then there's that white that really just kind of stands out. It's just that little bit of really white. It must be where the light hits it, or maybe that cat actually has a little bit of whitish gray right there in the black area. So you can just take your white, start to indicate that. But it's really, it's just a lot of finding all your details and figuring out what's really going to define that cat and make it really pop. And a lot of it is contrast between lights and darks. But getting those lines in there is when you really start to feel the softness of the fur. And it's a combination of blending and then strokes of white and black. And when I do an actual picture, it can take several layers to get there. But the great thing about Prismacolor is you can really get as much detail as you want. Just going in and defining that ear. Can that stand out? Going, and I probably want to erase some of this on the edges.
Got about 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. Since I did this so fast, I got a little messy, but you can take as much time as you want. Blow on the pigment so it doesn't get all over your paper.
We had a great tip from someone earlier that was saying they use a fluffy brush, like a blush brush, and it wipes everything off really easily. So
And yeah, I do the same thing. I've got painting watercolor brushes on my art desk at home, and I'll use those to brush it off. You can blow on it, but the brush works really well too.
Nice. Will you show a close-up one more time when you're done, Dan?
Sure.
Thanks.
Do you want a close-up of the drawing?
Yeah, will you do close-up of the drawing?
Okay,
and
sure.
then maybe the photo too, just make sure everybody got it.
Yeah. So this is just a quick drawing because we didn't have a lot of time, but as you can see, we're just going in and we're we're defining the eyes with the green and the, the ellipse shape of the pupil. And then we're going in with the grays to define and whites to define the areas. And if I had more time, I would spend more time on defining, the black fur and the way it lays in the gray areas, and just getting every single little detail perfect. But this gives you the overall idea of what it takes to do a black cat. It's a combination of the black and the whites and the grays and the blending, and just really looking at your photo and just seeing, seeing about, how to capture all of that gray and that black, and see how those ears are a little bit, kind of a brownish gray. So it's determining your color palette, and then taking those colors that you've selected, those Prismacolors, and just filling in the areas. And then just going in layer after layer of adding more and more color so you can really get that cat finished. Does anybody else have any questions? Oh, beautiful. I think I'm starting to see some artwork here. Oh, that's really nice. Beautiful. I really like how you did the tail too. Oh, that's really nice, Keenan. I love all those details. Oh, wow, it's great to see everybody's work. Man, oh, look at that, Sandra. Those lines are really nice. I love how you captured the shape of the cat with the lines. Oh, and Mary, look at that. That's really nice. Oh, and those eyes are very nice. Good job with the eyes, Lois. Wow, it's so cool to see everybody's work. Even in 1 hour, see what you can do in just 1 hour. Just imagine if you spent 2 or 3 hours. So, anybody have any questions? If we don't have any questions, I just want to say thank you so much for joining our class today. A coworker of mine, John Malloy, is going to have a people portrait drawing class with Prismacolor in a week from today. So if you want to sign up for that class, go on to Michael's, click on the fine art area for the online classes, and look for John Malloy's Prismacolor people portrait drawing class. That'll be a lot of fun because you can really take some of the skills you learned today, and you can start to learn how to apply those to people's faces too, which is a totally different challenge. So thanks so much. Please share your artwork at Make It With Michaels, hashtag Make It With Michaels, and at Prismacolor. I'd love to see some more of your artwork after the class. And thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks a lot. Bye.